Hey everyone, here's our review video for Unit 5 of Masechet Kiddushin. Again, for the upcoming test, we'll go through the entire thing plus some flow charts, help us really understand the Gemara well. If you remember correctly, our Gemara was working off a Mishnah that mentions a machloki between the Tanakama, the Rabbanan, we'll call it the Tanakama in this case, and Rabbi Shimon. The situation is what happens if a man says to a woman, I would like to be Mekadesh, I want you to be Mekudesha to me, with this, whatever it may be, and then he gives it to her, and it turns out, she took it, and it's something else. It's not what he promised. Okay, he said, I'm going to give Mekadesh with this cup of wine, and she says, okay, I'll accept that, and then she takes the barrel of wine, opens up, and it's honey. Or what if he says to her, I would like to be Mekadesh, you'll be Mekudesha to me with this gold coin, and he gives it to her, and she says, okay, and it turns out, she looks at, oh no, it's actually silver. So the Tanakama says that in any situation, if what he says is not the same thing as what he gave, the Kiddushin is completely no good. Rabbi Shimon argues and says it depends. If he promises something and then what he actually gives her is worth more than what he promised, then the Kiddushin is still good, because you assume that she'll accept one thing, she'll definitely accept the thing that's more expensive. But if it's less valuable or the same, then it would be no good. That's the machloket. So in a situation where what he gives is actually worth less than what he promised, everyone agrees it's no good. If what he gives is more expensive than what he promised, the Tanakama says that it's still no good, right? If what he says and what he gives is different, not a good deal. And Rabbi Shimon says it is a good deal. So the Gemara raises a problem with Rabbi Shimon. But let lay the Rabbi Shimon. Does Rabbi Shimon not know the following Mishnah? Yayin v'nim tachomet chometim yayin. Okay, literally means wine, and it turns out to be vinegar. Vinegar, it turns out to be wine. Shneim yachol lachzor lahem. They could both go back on the deal, right? We're talking about a situation where two people make a deal. One person is going to sell the other one either wine or vinegar. The Mishnah tells us, in Bava Batra tells us the following: if the seller says, "I'm going to sell you wine," and the man says, "Okay," and then he write up a contract or whatever it is, and then he gives him the barrel, and it turns out to be vinegar. Or the opposite, he says, I'm going to sell you vinegar, and he opens the barrel and turns out, oh, look, I just bought wine. Either way, whichever way the mistake is made, both parties can go back on the deal, meaning it's not a good deal. Meaning even though the actual words of the Mishnah are, each of them can go back on the deal, at the end of the day, if each of them can go back on the deal, it means the deal is no good, and it just, if theoretically both of them are like, okay, fine, let's do it, then it's like almost making a new deal, but the deal is no good. And this seems to contradict Rabbi Shimon. The Gemara then just elaborates it and compares it to our case. Alma, based on this, right? Therefore, it seems, right? Apparently, there are those who prefer vinegar and those who prefer wine. And since there are some who prefer vinegar and some who prefer wine, no matter what the value is, if there's a value change, even if the value goes up, meaning he said, I'm going to sell you vinegar, and it turns out he sold him wine, you might think, okay, then the deal should be good because he gave him something more expensive. Either way, the deal is no good because you don't know what the person prefers. Hachanami, so too in our case, in our Mishnah, when it comes to Kiddushin, some people prefer silver and some people prefer, and don't want gold. So how could Rabbi Shimon say that if it goes up in value, then the Kiddushin is good? We see a Mishnah which tells us, no, it doesn't matter. You don't know what people prefer. And since you don't know what people prefer, if what is promised is different than what is given, the deal is absolutely no good. So again, to illustrate this contradiction, so you have our statement from Rabbi Shimon, where Rabbi Shimon says that it's all based on value. If what the woman receives is greater value than what she was promised, then it's fine. Only if it's less valuable, then it's no good. The problem is that we have a Mishnah of Batra, which tells us that anytime there's an error, the deal is no good, no matter what. In any transaction, any understanding between two people, if what is given is different than what was promised, what was expected, then the deal is no good no matter what, which seems to contradict here Rabbi Shimon that it's based on value. So what's Rabbi Shimon going to have to say for himself? So in order to solve this problem, the Gemara introduces a new kimta, right? The phrase "hachab mayaskina," what are we dealing with here, is a way of saying, well, what is the situation actually talking about? If it was a regular situation where a man was going straight up to a woman and saying, "Harei mikudesha li," and he promises her one thing and she takes something else, and it turns out to be something else, then Rabbi Shimon would agree with the Mishnah of Batra that it's completely no good, just like the Tanakama says, no matter what this situation, no matter whether it goes up in value or down in value. So then why in this case did Rabbi Shimon say that it's based on value? He says, Kigon shamar l'shlucha halveini dinar shel kesef. It's as if it's talking about, for instance, a man saying to a shliach, halveini dinar shel kesef, lend me a silver coin, v'lech v'kadesh li'isha plonit. and go use it to be Makadish, woman X. So again, a woman Plonit, which is a way of saying, Jane Doe. So again, he doesn't have any money, or he does, but he says, do me a favor, I'm going to make you my shaliach, my proxy, my messenger to deliver this Kiddushin for me. You use a silver coin, you use your own, I'll pay you back, don't worry, and use that to be Makadish this woman. So what happened? V'halach the shliach went, v'hil v'shel zahav, and he gave her a gold coin. In that case, Mar Savar, one person holds Kpeda, that the person that was appointing, the man when he was appointing the Shliach was being specific. He was makbid, he was specific that I want it to be a silver coin and nothing else. Umar Savar Mar Makamullah, they were just providing an example of the Shliach. Silver is fine. If silver is kind, then for sure gold is fine. So what the Gemara did here was move this Mishnah from talking about a direct person-to-person transaction, in which case it would be governed by the rules in Bava Bater, which tells you that no matter what, if there's a change, then it's completely no good. If there's what's promised and what was given is different, then for sure it's no good no matter what the value. And moves it to talking about shlichut, sending a proxy, a messenger, shliach. So just to illustrate that, so originally we had this as a contradiction because we thought we were talking about a transaction. So if our case was a regular transaction, right, where the man goes directly to the woman, and he promises her one thing and he actually gives her something else, then you're right. The Mishnah Bava Batra would contradict Rabbi Shimon would be wrong. But once we say we're talking about where he tells his shliach to use a certain coin and the shliach makes a mistake, it has nothing to do with a deal between two people and has nothing to do with this Mishnah Bava Batra. And we're not going to say, this Mishnah Bava Batra contradicts Rabbi Shimon, because Rabbi Shimon is talking about appointing a shliach and the Mishnah is talking about a deal between two people. Those are two totally different areas of halacha, and there's no more contradiction because they're talking about two totally different things. The Gemara then raises a problem and says, very nice, logically it solves the problem, but it doesn't solve the problem. The words don't fit with the Mishnah. The Gemara says, ihachi, if so. When you see ihachi means if so, it's questioning what was just said. If what you said is true, that the Mishnah is talking about a man appointing a shliach, hitkachi li, right? The Mishnah says, he says, bimi kudesha to me with this silver coin. It turns out to be gold. Hitkachi lomi ba'alei. It should say, bimi kudesha to him, because the shliach is the one talking. Hit ala shavach, he tricked her, but it turned out to be more value. Hit ahu la shavach, he tricked him, and it turned out to be more, right? Because the shliach is, so to speak, tricking, misleading, or whether it's purpose or accidental, the man who appointed him. Mi ba'alei should have said nimtza, right? It turned out to be gold. Right? It's not like there was a promise, it's not like there was one expectation and the expectation wasn't met, from the, it wasn't like in our first case, the man has the silver coin, a gold coin, and then he promises her a gold coin. She turns out that it's silver. The shliach the entire time knew that it was a gold coin, and knew that it was a silver coin. It was always gold. There's no change here. The real problem is the first two problems, right? It's clear that from the Mishnah that it's talking about where the man himself is speaking to the woman, and the woman is the one being fooled, not the man appointing the shliach. So it doesn't fit with the Mishnah. So logically it fits, but the words don't fit. Okay, so just take a look here. So the problem with solution number one is that you want to say it's talking about where he tells his shliach, and the shliach makes the mistake. It doesn't fit with the words of our Mishnah. So what does the Gemara do? The Gemara basically says, we're going to use the same logic. We'll just say we're not talking about where the man is appointing a shliach and the shliach makes a mistake. It's where the woman was appointing a shliach to accept the Kiddushin, and then that shliach kind of was fooled. How does that work? So Elama Rava says, okay, blah, blah, blah. Hachal Ma'askin, what's this ukimta? No, you didn't get the ukimta exactly right. Kegon, for example, something like, She'amra hi l'shlucha, she says to her shliach, Sei v'kabel li kedoshe miploni, go accept kedushin from person X. She'amra li t'kaj li b'din or shal kesef. The man said to, right, so a man is traveling to be mekadosh the woman. He says to the woman, I want to be mekadosh you with this silver coin, right? That he gives to her, and then the woman says, "Okay, to her shliach, hey, come on, do me a favor. Go accept that silver coin from him." And the shliach goes, and what happens? The halach v'natan ziner shel zahav, and the man actually gives her shliach, right, the man himself, a gold coin. So what happens in that case? So therefore that solves our problems from before, because now it's the man saying mimikadesh to me, right? Because the man is the one doing the talking, which is what it says in our Mishnah, and she's the one being fooled, not him, right? In the first answer, his shliach was fooling him. Here, he is fooling her shliach, which is in turn fooling her. So he's the one doing the fooling, so to speak. And then the Gemara addresses why does it say it turned out? Because it was wrapped in a cloth. Like it makes them like ukim to make that it turned out make sense. But the important part is the logical answer that we're talking about, where the man was the one who promised the woman something, and then he gave her shliach something else. So again, he's the one talking to her. It's kachilit, fits the words of the Mishnah, and she's the one who is fooled, which also fits the words of the Mishnah. And again, it successfully avoids the issue and it successfully avoids the original problem from the Mishnah Bava Batra. So we go back to our illustration again. So the original contradiction was, doesn't it say in the Mishnah in Bava Batra that when it comes to a deal between two people, no matter what the error is, up value, down value, the deal is no good? How could Rabbi Shimon say that in this transaction, this deal between two people with the Kiddushin, the man and the woman, that's based on value? That's a contradiction. The Gemara says no. We're talking about where she tells her shliach to accept a certain promised coin, and the man gives a different coin. And that's how it works out. So it's not about a deal between two people. It's about when she appoints her shliach, is she specific? Right? When she appoints her shliach, right, it's nothing to do with a deal between two people. Right? It has to do with she appoints her shliach and say, I'm making a messenger to accept that silver coin. And it turns out the messenger accepts a gold coin. That's not a deal between her and the shliach. It's whether or not the shliach appoints her. It's whether or not we could say the shliach is acting on her behalf. The Tanna Kama's opinion is that the shliach is acting on her behalf only if the shliach accepts exactly what she told it to, the shliach to, him to, which would be a silver coin. The Rabbi Shimon says no, the shliach, as long as the shliach accepts something that's worth the same value or more, then it's fine as well. But it has absolutely, again, nothing to do with the deal between two people, nothing to do with our mission. It's not a contradiction because it's comparing apples to oranges. It's comparing transactions to appointing a shliach. And again, solution number 2 works. It's logically the same as solution number 1, that we're talking about appointing a shliach as opposed to the man and the woman directly, but it actually fits the words of our Mishnah because, again, I can go back to what we discussed before. All right, so again, just to quickly review it. So again, the problem is that Rabbi Shimon says that if the man promises her one thing and he gives her something else, then if it goes up in value of what he promised, then it's still a good Kiddushin. The problem is the Mishnah Bava Batra says that when there's a deal between two people, it doesn't matter if it goes up or down in value. You don't know what people prefer, and therefore maybe the person who was accepting the coin really wanted a silver coin. Therefore, the deal should be no good. So how could Rabbi Shimon say that? So the Gemara solves the problem by saying that we're talking about shlichut. We're not talking about where the man and the woman are dealing directly, and that would be a real transaction. That would go against the Mishnah Bava Batra. First, the Gemara suggests that we're talking about where the man appoints a shliach to bring a certain coin, and he brings a different coin. And then the machloket Rabbi Shimon and the Tanna Kama is whether we go based on exactly what the man said, or just anything that's in the area, right? The same price or more would be fine. That doesn't fit with the wording in the Mishnah, so the Gemara just tweaks the answer. Says we're talking about where she sends her shliach to accept a certain coin, and it turns out the shliach gets a more valuable coin. According to the Tanna Kama, the shlichut is no good. The shliach is not considered to be representing her. And according to Rishima, no, as long as the shliach is accepting a coin which is the same value or more, we could say the shliach is representing her, and it's a good shlichut, nothing to do with the Mishnah in Bava Batra.